I read about half of it, and I will say, like all of Paul's writings, it has incredible truth and wisdom in there. However, boy, is it way, way, way too long. There should have been like 5 essays or a tweet storm, and I wonder if he wouldn't do himself a better service by editing himself. It's also, when you're talking in generalities, it's better to keep it very, very short, like tweets and aphorisms, because people get exhausted by generalities. When you get to length, you have to tell stories and specifics. But for generalities, it's got to stay short. It might be worth taking 1 or 2 specific points from his essay and discussing it in some detail, but trying to cover that whole essay is going to be a slog.
I've never read any of his work, and I'm just curious. Could I get a rundown on the topics that he writes well about, or some of his best ideas before I jump in?
I'll mention Paul writes about like mostly business related stuff, but I would say also timeless wisdom. The piece that was influenced me the most was it called "Do Things That Don't Scale." I will put it here, and I would suggest it's pretty old, but there's so much wisdom there, so probably a good start.
I really enjoy his essay on cities. It helps you kind of understand yourself in a space. And I also really like his essay about doing things that don't scale. I'm not sure exactly which one it is. I'll link to it later. But it really helps you kind of demystify some of the memes that are in our heads about building companies that are really, really big, to know that in the beginning it's okay to just do things that you feel like are right, even though logically you couldn't support 1 million people like that.
I think this is a great idea, and I want to jump in with this piece on how the greatest work is defined by other people building on top of it. And Naval, I want to ask you, as a person who created this distinct body of wisdom, which other people identify with you, and a lot of great things were built on top of it. And is it something that could be criteria for you for your greatest work? Or is it something else? Really, really curious to hear your reflection here.
And not because she's my namesake, but this essay he wrote on his partner and wife was very inspiring to me, on how we are allowed to kind of set up a company in the way that we like and surround ourselves with people that we like. And there's no such thing as kind of like, that's good for business only. That's what I took away from this essay on Jessica. I believe her last name is Livingston. I don't really quite remember, but we'll see when we post the link.
It's not necessarily criteria for me for when I do my work. I do my work for myself mainly. I think the reason it gets remixed a lot is it's simple. And so simple components are easy to assemble. So tweet size components, for example, that are distilled down to their essence are very easy to remix. And the second is I put no restrictions other than attribution. I never made a dime off the Navalmanac. I don't care if Akira makes money putting in his music videos. I don't care if people make YouTube out of it. All I ask for is attribution, and even that I don't always get. So I think it's a combination of simple components plus no restrictions on use that lets it get remixed. But is that the criteria for why I created? No, I kept it simple so I could remember it myself. This is all advice to myself. And in terms of other people reusing it, ideas are free. Who cares?
Hi, I've not heard of Paul Graham before, so I thought as a newbie I would ask where would be the best place to start to learn more about him and his books and his work.
I just read the Doing Things That Won't Scale piece, and I really liked it. I think Andrew also linked that one. I really liked that. It's really spot on with how it's about kind of breaking patterns that your ego gets going. And like me and a friend just sort of launched a small project we've been working on. And of course, all of the patterns in our head about like we had to make the launch perfect, and all the patterns that he talks about. It was just like comical how little any of that like actually matters to kind of how the project actually turns out. Because it's all, there's so much ego and trying to escapism that go into building something that just gets stuck in your head. So it was nice to read that and kind of try to clean some of that up.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad you like it. And thank you for sharing your insights. This article was actually a mantra for me for some time. So just like I was repeating it, like do things that don't scale in my head. I actually been through the whole how to do great work recently. And I want to share a few things that resonated with me. Maybe we could talk about them if that's something you would be interested to. I would start with the thing which Paul said, being comfortable with the world full of puzzles. I think it's really deep thought because it's not actually just puzzles, because puzzle is a thing where you add more information and you can solve any puzzle. But there are also mysteries, and they're just like, no matter how much information you add, there's no guarantee you can solve mystery. I think it's Gary Klein's distinction. And I really like this idea of really being comfortable with it and, accepting it and kind of finding your puzzle and your mystery to crack Another idea that resonated with me, this idea of you need to go wider to actually have more chances to find something new, to discover this problem that you are basically capable and skilled to solve. And I mean, it kind of looks obvious, but non-obvious thought for me was if you actually go deeper and you become kind of niche expert, you would encounter a lot less problems, and you actually have a higher chance to do mediocre work just because you limit yourself to this kind of very niche, very, very narrow lane. And the third idea probably would be how the school leave a lot of nonsense in our head. And basically when we go to school, we're young and we're super susceptible to these misconceptions. And school embed a lot of misconceptions in our head. And now basically we need to spend a lot of time in our adulthood to unlearn all of these misconceptions, which were basically side effects from this mass education.
One of the ideas from his essay on doing great work is that you have to aim to be the best. Being good is simply to make a standard. And I think that's really powerful. It's something that is easy to do in the context of a team or like a local maxima in your company or something. But when you're working on the internet, when you're trying to do something new, it can seem intimidating. So if there's any advice or any experiences that anyone wants to share around that or how you deal with that, would be great.
I particularly like his Airbnb's essay, which really gives you a view of what a VC looks at a startup when they're choosing to invest in them and what really made the Airbnb stand out from all the other startups. One of the quotes I remember from his essay is that normally in YC, he'd tell a startup to improve on this and they'd think about this and they'd still come back with barely any improvement done. But when he'd tell the same feedback to the Airbnbs on a particular feature, they'd come back with testing that idea, testing 10 other ideas similar to that feedback given to them by Paul, and all of them executed and with a report of what worked and what did not. And that specific example I remember, and I particularly found that super cool. Another one of his essays that is exceptional is, I can't remember the name, but it's about it talks about education and why you should go to college. And I really like that because it says that, school, what the purpose of school is really to get you with a group of right people, to get you to be around the most ambitious people in the world, while you should be spending most of your time in school, working on school, and most of the rest of your time should be going towards your side projects. So that can get you to be with the people you really like. And I found that also particularly really good because it really makes you question why the hell you're going to college. Also, sorry for the spam, but if anyone would like to give a small summary of Paul's recent essay, that'd be great, because I just looked at how absolutely long it is, and oh my god, that's gonna take me some time to read.
Unfortunately, like all good works, Paul's essays aren't really summarizable. They're just jam-packed with information and content. This really should have been either 5 different essays or more tightly edited with just focusing on the great points and not so much on the good ones.
It's funny. He makes up. He's made the point a few times on Twitter that this is a feature, not a bug. That is, essays are not summarizable. And if I tried to get the Bard summarization, even asked for like particularly insightful points, and it was absolutely boring. It said just natural, like great people need effort, natural ability, and practice. And you don't really need all three, but you need at least two, and like just pretty generic shit, honestly. I'll take a stab at reading it tomorrow and see if I can extract anything, but also didn't read because it was too long.
It's funny, I shared this in another room, but I think you should check out this video. It's still very good actionable advice, and it's one of my more favorite pieces of content in a video form that Paul Graham's put out there.
Thanks, Aryan. You can actually post a link either in the comment below, or you can actually just post a chit using the text control. If you put a link in there, it'll turn into an actionable, clickable link.